What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode on my channel. As always, I'm Jay, and today, guys, I'm actually talking about something that I missed the first time around, and that is the Hellboy 2019 reboot starring David Harbour. Now, guys, with this movie right here, I actually didn't end up watching it in theaters. I actually ended up renting it recently because it just released on Blu-ray DVD, and the reason why is because there was a lot of trashing of this movie, and it got a very low score on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, even people that were fans of the previous two movies, which I'm more a fan of the original one, not the second one, because the second one felt a little too kiddish for me, said that this movie was crap. In the film, of course, like I said, David Harbour plays the titular Hellboy, and then Professor Broom is actually recast, of course, played elegantly by Ian McShane, who is an awesome actor in his own right. And then there's other different characters that are unlike the original two Hellboy films as well. And the tone itself is more akin to a horror comedy, more in the likes of Evil Dead 2 and some of those Sam Raimi films along that same vein. And that's really where the film excels for me, is that it gives this kind of cult classic feel. And the odd thing is that this film is significantly less of a budget than the first two Hellboy films. But all in all, I thought that the look of this film was fantastic. This was a rated R film, so they actually went a lot darker and a lot more mature with some of the themes. There's definitely a lot more gore and horror inside of this. The way that Hellboy looks in this film looks pretty cool and kind of not used to what we're seeing. I mean, if you look at Ron Perlman's version of Hellboy, he kind of seemed a little bit more clean. He seemed a little bit more easygoing. This one, Hellboy, really seems a little bit more roughed up and a lot more aged and kind of scarred by life. Not to mention, we are kind of scarred in the fact that we find out what the hell happened with Hellboy's, father and mother. And one of the craziest aspects for me to watch this film was the Baba Yaga scenes, where this freaking one-eyed freaking hag, freaking crazy contortionist freak bitch ends up crawling around and is basically like trying to make out with Hellboy, and freaking she's eating children and all this other shit like that. It just made my skin crawl, which was actually a pretty cool aspect in and of itself in the film. There's some very kind of crazy cool things that they do with the story, including telling you that Hellboy is actually the last living descendant of King Arthur somehow, which I think is fantastic and kind of crazy in and of itself. Also, I read up on the film, and it's actually comprised of several different stories by the original creator, Mike Mignola, of some of the Hellboy comics he did. In addition to that, he actually created this character called Lobster Johnson, who is actually also in the film and plays kind of a small role inside of the origin of Hellboy as it's depicted inside of this film. The villain herself, Nimue, played by Mia Jovovich, is definitely a different type of villain, and she tries to appeal to Hellboy's monstrous nature in the manner of not all monsters are bad, because one of the major things about this film is that Hellboy is not welcome. Everyone's prejudiced against him. Everyone thinks that he's going to turn on the human race. Everyone thinks he's a demon sent straight from hell with only bad intentions, which is not the case. And that's one thing that, again, I want to say is that this film, I can see it definitely becoming a cult classic. It's got those horror elements. It's got the kind of over-the-top humor, action, gore factor inside of it. It definitely plays on a new side and a new perspective of the Hellboy lore and everything. And, if it had made enough box office, I would have been on board for sequels, which I don't know if they're thinking of making any. But I definitely will say that this film was a lot better than I thought. I think of it as a solid 3 out of 5. It's nothing crazy extravagant, but it actually is pretty decent. I thought the humor was on point. I was kind of chuckling a lot in this film, and I really enjoyed the different things that they played with inside of this film. I thought David Harbour did a fantastic job as Hellboy, doing his own thing and finding a new way to the character and presenting him in a new light. I thought, again, the supporting cast was fantastic. And if you haven't seen it, definitely recommend watching it. If you're a little leery, do what I did. Pay just like $4 or $5 to rent it. But all in all, guys, let me know what you think about this Hellboy film down below. I know I'm a little late to the party, but if you liked it, let me know. If you hated it, definitely let me know that as well. But aside from that, why don't you let me know any other indie comics that you'd also like to see brought to the big screen that aren't Marvel or DC? I'm very curious. But anyway, guys, that's all the time that I have for today. I thank you so much for enjoying my video and taking the time out of your day to watch it. And as always, like, comment, subscribe if you like this video. And if you are subscribed, make sure you hit that bell button. That way you never miss a moment of my content. But anyway, guys, I'm Jay, and until next time, take care. Bye.